anything that you have around your studio, so painted pages that you have left over, leaflets or packaging. I really like the colours of these things, so we'll use them. We're going to use basic flower making techniques, but we're just going to make it with our own funky formed flowers. So to make our flower shapes, first off, what I'm doing is I'm just folding it into a quarter, and now I'm going to just make some petals. Now what you need to do as you are creating your petals is make sure that the edge that you go across on one side is as far down, is the same length down as what it will be on the other side. So what I often do is do it this way and then flip it over, just to make sure I keep it quite even. And you can change your flower shapes as you go along. You can make it into a point, you can make it into a circle, does not matter, so that you get something like that. The paper is fold it over again, so rather than doing it into quarters, you can do it into eighths by folding it again and cutting it this way. Like that. I did it on a bit too small a paper, but you get it. Is just fold it over into quarters and do a double petal. Now what I mean by that is, imagine you're drawing a heart or cutting a heart. This will give you double petals, like that. Just kind of define the petals a little bit more, because what it does is it makes it look like they are supposed to be petals. What our next stage is, to get to here, is we first need to cut into each of the petals to give them a little bit more room for us to manipulate them. Okay, now how we manipulate it is I just grab the size of a scissor and I just curl the edges, including the one that you are not going to be using, that you're not going to see. You need to curl that over as well. Okay, so on this flower, as you can see, I have not done one of the petals, so we know which one it is that I'm going to be using. And I'm just going to cut on that one right into the centre, because what we are going to do is overlap one petal onto the other, so it gives us this peak, and it gives us a proper petal flower shape, whereas that's just a bit flat. If it was like that, it would always be flat. This gives it proper movement and makes it look more like a flower. So we want to stick that together, and all I do is stick a little bit of double-sided tape on it. Occasionally I'll stick a bit of Eileen's tacky glue in there as well, depending on the kind of paper I'm using, if it needs extra support or not. And then what I do is just trim off the excess of the under petal. Okay, and there you have your first layer of a flower. You have all sorts of combinations. Don't know, I'll decide when I come to glue it. So what you want to do is use Eileen's tacky glue and put a dollop in the centre. And find the best way for it to fit. Next one, do it again. I like to put my 3 petals in alternatively. See, it wants to go like that, but I don't want it like that. So keep fiddling about until it's happy. I think I will put this one in as well. Okay, and now what I do, because the bottom is still pointed, that glue kind of makes the card in the middle a little bit more damp, a little bit more manipulatable. So what I do once it's got to that point is I just put my thumb in it and I just push the point down to make it flat. So now I'm going to be able to stick that on a page or something, and it's got a flat surface to do so. And what that also does by pushing down is it kind of fuses your layers of flour together. So this one that was a little bit disgruntled where it was laying is now going to stick down firm.
Depending on what size you want your flower to be, you start out with a square. 6 petaled flowers, you start off with your square, and you're going to fold, sorry, everything's moving around on me here. You're going to fold this, it really isn't that hard, in half to form a triangle. Okay? So far so good. So now what I want to do is mark the center point here. So I'm just going to fold the 2 corners together like this, and I'm just going to press down here. I don't want to make a crease all the way up. Okay, and that's going to show me roughly where my center of my paper is. And then I'm going to fold one side up at that point and fold the other side up at that point. And you want to tuck these in nice and tight and make a nice crease here. Okay, so that's the shape you're going to have to make your 6-petaled flower. Now the 6-petal flower is nice because you can actually make some fairly nice rounded petals because of the size and the width of your piece here. Now what you're going to do is you're going to start quite low, close to this point, but you don't want to go all the way down to the point. You've got folds on both sides, and we're going to cut away those folds. But we want the folds to remain at the bottom so that it's going to hold the petals together. So I'm just going to take my scissors, and for my clematis I'm going to make sort of a go wider and then come in to a point. And I'm going to repeat that to the other side. Try and duplicate what I did over here. Not working. And cut down as close as you can to there. Okay, so that's my basic shape, like that. Now you don't have to worry too much because flowers aren't all perfect, and so as long as you've got the general shape that you want, you're going to be fine. If you are making multiple flowers, you may want to draw a template, and then you can trace that template onto your other squares so that they're all the same. So here we have a nice 6-petal flower. Okay, so now basically it's what you do to this afterwards that gives you your dimension and your nice flower. I also want to create a little more depth to these petals, so I'm going to fold each petal in half, just like that. Make a nice little crease. That. All 6 petals. All right.
Okay. I did video doing this, but for some reason it didn't load, so I had to miss that bit out. Fold it corner to corner. Okay. So you've got that. Fold it corner to corner again. So whatever size flower you want, you must make sure that when you folded it, from the point to the edge, you have that size petal. So if I wanted a 6-inch, just say for argument's sake, I wanted sorry, a 3-inch flower across, I would have to measure it and make sure my square was cut 1.5 inches. If you understand what I mean, I'll show you. I mean, what does this measure? Let me just show you this. Oops, wrong way. Right, I'm going to end up making a 6-inch flower by doing this. Because when you open it up, you've got the whole flower. So fold it in half, corner to corner, fold it in half again. Fold the first flap back on itself. Like that. Now here, I would have 6 petals. But because I want 8, I'm going to, you have to fold it this way. I'll show you how to do the 6 as well. So there you go. So now I've got that. Now obviously I know, I mean I do it by eye, but just in case you're not quite sure or you're not feeling confident, shape it round like that. That's not quite right, sorry. So you're doing a cone there, like that. What did I do with my, whatchamacallit? No, never mind. Anyway, so you're cutting that. And you just chop it round. So you've got 8. Like that. So fold it back. Now what you do is you cut from about, well, you can start at the top in the middle and start to shape, excuse me, your petal, and just cut it like that. Turn it over. I find it easier to do it that way. From the middle again and cut round. Now you can reshape these however you want. Okay? So then what I do is I open up and then I just snip. I mean, look at the size of this. I just snip down each line and I have an 8-petal flower. And the thing is, when you're doing flowers and you're doing them by hand, the more petals you have, the better the fullness of the flower is. Right? So there you go, I've got the, and then all you can do then is, if you're not quite happy with the shape of the petal, you just trim it round like that and you get a perfect petal shape. Now what I'm going to do with this one just right now, oops, just move that one out of the way. So you can just shape them how you want. Like that. And I do it like this. I do one side, then I turn it over because I find it a lot easier to do. Because you're getting that gap between that petal and this. I just do that. Oops, look what I've done. Ignore that. You know what I mean. This is why you've got to be careful. And then I turn it over and do the opposite side. Move that out of the way. It's a lot easier. Like that. You end up with smooth edges. Because when you're cutting out by hand and you're doing several layers at once, you don't always get a smooth edge. But just trim them down. Just do that. It's easy. Like that. I'll just tidy this one up. There. And you've got a perfect flower.